I'm too shy.
Yes.
Why don't you have questions for Tia Becky?
Yeah, why don't you ask Tia Becky? She knows a little bit about Transformers. You can ask her.
Is there like a cat transformer too shy?
Yeah. There's a lion. There's a lion, and lions are cats, right? Here we are, and welcome to not a double trouble episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast, but a triple trouble episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast, because today, all three siblings, it's just us. We're going to catch up, and we're going to talk about Will Ferrell's new masterpiece on Netflix, Eurovision. But before we get into the topic of the day, Lily, given that you have the most of our parents with you, what's happening?
Not only do I have our parents, I'm starting construction in my house, and they live with me now. And it's like I have a sign in my head that says, I really want everybody's opinion all the time about everything.
Yeah, I know, because I FaceTimed you the other day. Mom picked up your phone, then showed me all of the color palettes on the wall to get my opinion on what you should paint your walls.
That's amazing.
Right.
I just know that when I'm talking to you and you're on headphones, Mom shouts into your ear.
Yep.
To give
No, wait. The story's
comments.
not done. She then got annoyed at me and hung up on me. And I go, wait a minute.
But I never
called
got
Lily. I never called you.
But then there's been a new development in the mom Jose dynamics, where now mom, she got the new, if you listen to this episode, this podcast a few weeks ago, there was a development with our dishwasher. Mom went on her own and bought us a new dishwasher. And Jose, who has a hard time throwing anything out, said that, it's only because the dishwasher wasn't used to so many people in the house that just give it a chance. And yesterday she started in about the oven, and he was like, it's just not used to cooking for this many people all the time. And I was just like, Mom, do whatever you want. Like,
Count
I can't.
yourself lucky. I tried to freeze Mom and Dad out on my old dishwasher for a solid 4 visits, and I refused to buy a new one because I was like, if they stay here long enough and hate my dishwasher enough, I will eventually trick them into getting a new one out of sheer irritation.
And when we tell these stories, we do this in a self-aware way, knowing that we are...
It's extremely lucky to get a new dishwasher.
We are extremely...
Why do you think
lucky.
I'm sitting there at the table being like, go on, buy me a new oven. Go right ahead.
Yeah,
I'm kicking Jose under the table. Like, what are you doing?
Should we cut this and just leave it for the secret podcast?
No. I feel like this is part of how we grew up with our parents, and we own the fact that we are extremely lucky and
meddling. Parents meddle in all different kinds
in different ways.
The privilege to have your parents meddle. Right. Yeah. Ours, honestly, mostly meddle in electronic appliances.
Yeah, and in ways that are really helpful. Speaking of electronic appliances, so our circuit breaker, there's this weird thing where our circuit breaker got water in it, which is terrifying, but it worked. So a few of the fuses died. They had to get fixed. But one of the strange results of this was that our ceiling fan light in our room was just turning on and off, like in the middle of the night, we'd look up and the light would be on, and Allie would be like, what the heck? I'd be like, Allie, why'd you turn the light on? Because she sleeps with the eye things, so maybe she didn't see. And she's like, I didn't turn it on. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's a ghost, which as a kid, that would have terrified me, but it really scared Allie. Again, had no idea it would. So eventually yesterday, I figured out how to reset it, and Allie just looks at me, she goes, I never really see you as being so, good at fixing things and technical things. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm always like, I had to stop what I was doing yesterday to turn on Just Dance on the Switch, but she qualified that as a hardware Roger Corman, not Shy Corman skill set. And so
leveling up.
Yeah, exactly. So she was very impressed.
Wow, so quarantine is giving you new ways to impress your wife every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Exciting.
Are you kidding? I'm gonna definitely come out of this ahead of where I was beforehand.
You know,
Like,
I got to tell you, if quarantine is doing one thing for me, it's making me realize how much I don't need friends. Like, I'm fine. I am like shockingly fine just
Jose
texting
said
people
this. He
and
said
doing
he's like,
once a
I've
week.
already known that for a long time. It's just
Far less
solidifying
social
it.
than I thought I
yeah,
was.
I've just had to like shut down a section of my heart that's like aching that I can't be around people in person, and so I react a little bit different. Now, Becky, how are you?
I'm just taking a long pause. I'm not
Are you
really sure how
tired?
to
No,
answer.
I suspect you're tired today, not because of your lack of sleeping children, but because you stayed up like Ali and I did, just mining
Okay.
the internet for Eurovision songs.
Oh
So
my God.
I started the
2:30 in this
movie
house.
at
2:30.
my
Me and Mom
bedtime.
on YouTube, and then
First
I
of
was like,
all,
we have to shut it down.
I want to say
Enough.
I started the movie when I normally go to bed. So I started it at 9:30 and I said, "All right, I have to watch this for the pod." But Vlad, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to get through like the first half hour and then I'm going to bed. I stayed up the entire time and then stayed up longer just talking about the movie and talking in the movie, like talking in the accents and discussing
I
elves.
this one, okay, so let's just go with reactions. I'm gonna start with mine and then I'll go to yours. So this is one where I was like, oh, this looks like another like
Blades
Netflix.
of
No,
or
not
like
even Blades of
oh,
Glory. I love
sorry.
Blades of Glory, but this looks just like another Netflix like direct to video, like like Excretion and Six Underfoot or whatever those other terrible movies were. But in general, their comedies, other than some of the early ones, their comedies haven't been so bad. But then I saw the runtime of 2 hours and 4 minutes, and
Oof, I didn't look first,
I
luckily.
was like, oh
Oh
no.
my God. I was like, there's no way this movie needs to be that long.
And so we watched it, and there were definitely times where I started to drift, like where I was like, I gotta check my phone or I'm not gonna like be able to. But
Right.
in the end, I have to say, this was a very sweet movie. It was funny. It wasn't like the nihilistic humor of some of the other of that, like of some of the other movies. The characters actually paid off. All the people they spent time on actually kind of, I wouldn't say tied up their story, but played a role. And although there were characters that were maybe more antagonists and there was like one villain, I guess, it really wasn't a movie about like good guys versus bad guys. Even the characters within the competition that were sort of causing problems for them really wasn't about that. And
Right. It
and I
wasn't your
thought the songs
typical
were,
like
and I
a
loved,
rival team that they have to
yeah,
beat. Like, yeah.
Right.
yeah,
And I like that it was more about the personal growth and personal,
yeah.
Journey.
team turmoil than an evil rivalry.
And it was very funny. And I thought that Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams were adorable in this movie together. And I think they earned what you go through with these characters, which I think sometimes when you get some of these Netflix comedies, people are like, there are some people who are trying really hard, and then there are other like in Lovebirds, which I thought like Camille and Issa Rae, like they brought it, right?
Oh my God, their chemistry,
Camille,
their comedic,
yeah,
just
they
they were amazing.
they brought it, but like I was like, oh, Will Ferrell's kind of a big star. Rachel McAdams, she can be really funny, but
We forget how funny she can be. We forget Mean Girls.
Mean Girls.
But go back and watch Mean Girls. She is hilarious. She should do more comedy.
And they brought it. They had to sell this, and for me, like there was real effort put into this. This was not a like throw it turned into a 2-hour movie.
I'm gonna give the director some credit because I feel like he must have reined it in. And they put a lot of production value in getting these songs right and doing big numbers, which I think in this movie, that it becomes clear that early on that these musical numbers are really what's driving each sort of chapter of the story forward, right?
Yeah.
And having them bigger and with, just hilarious. Just now that it's great cinematography, it's so funny the way that it's shot. It's shot really,
yeah. It's like
it's
if
done really well.
if the
it
songs
is great.
weren't good or fun, it would have been harder to watch the movie. but
I want to come back.
They clearly, yeah, we
I
can
wanna
come back
c-
to the music.
I want to come back
but-
in this note to the cinematography to Becky in a minute, because there were actually moments where I felt the way they filmed the movie that like got me emotionally, that I just don't feel like is that effort is put into every comedy. But Lily, what was your reaction to the movie? Because you were the first one to see it.
So my reaction was like, it's again, I knew it was good. When you watch a movie with mom, it's often hard to tell if a movie's good because she thinks it's so funny, then you think it's funny,
Yeah.
and so it's like hard to gauge. But I knew that I liked it on my own, which is saying a lot. That like while we were watching it, I was like laughing on my own, not just at mom laughing, and Jose was laughing. So like I was like, okay, this is actually funny, and I enjoyed it enormously watching it in Europe with a European. I
Right.
have to
We
say, I
we
feel
need
like,
to actually do a little breakdown of
yeah,
like
I feel
now
like I had a leg up,
I have
and I
some
feel like Americans. I feel like I imagine that Will Ferrell accidentally stumbled upon Eurovision on YouTube and was like, "Oh my god, how has nobody made a movie about this?" Because I feel like it's not something that people in the US know about, and it's huge here. Like people,
Well,
like when you see the bar in the Icelandic town watching, like here when it's on, people, Jose said it's like Christmas Eve. Like people all gather around the TV and watch. It's a really big deal. And
Well,
Spain has won a ton of times.
I lived in Brussels, and during
Right,
one
yes.
of them, and that was when I got a lot more. But what people don't always remember is that when you go to Jewish summer camp, because Israel has won a number of times, and
It has,
actually
right.
won when we were at camp in '98, Donna International won for the song Diva, and so there was a lot of telling us about that because it was this cultural Jewish moment to that Israel had won this international competition, and recently, I think as recently as 2018, Netta won with the song Toy, and she had a cameo in the movie, but we'll come back to
Well,
cameos. All right.
come back.
All right.
So
Lily, can you break down for us watching it with a European and some of the key things Jose identified that regular Americans
Okay.
watching this would not get?
So immediately as we're watching the movie, when they talk about the importance of Eurovision, or when you see Eurovision and it's like extremely cheesy and over the top and overdone, and the costumes and the songs and everything, he could not emphasize enough. He was like, this is not an exaggeration. This is like a documentary. He was like, this is not an exaggeration. I'm telling you, this is really what it is. He just kept repeating it over and over. And he was like, oh my God, that's exactly what it's like. And so me and mom were like, okay, come on. It's a Will Ferrell movie. And he's like, nope, that's totally 100%. So like about halfway through the movie, he's like, just stop everything. He made us pause it and then just watch multiple Eurovision clips from 1969, something about that, where Spain won for the first time, through to like, I don't know, the 90s. And we watched the Finnish one with the monsters.
Oh, I love that one. So I was there in the
Lordy,
year between that. Lordy, I was
when
there.
Lordy
I was in
won.
Brussels the year between when they won and then when the Serbian won the next year. And they played that Lordy video. I have watched that 100 times. I made Allie watch it at the end last night.
So he was like,
Becky, have you seen it?
I'm realizing
Rock
this
Hallelujah.
Conversation, I am not as versed in the real Eurovision culture and historic moments as
It's
my
extensive.
siblings.
I
I don't know what
known
that says about
it.
me versus you two.
Maybe you're not as worldly as we are. I don't know what to say.
I might be okay with that in this
And
case.
so he was like, no, you have to stop and watch a bunch of these clips. And then the other perspective I think that he brought to it was that he was like, I need you to understand that after they win, none of these people are famous. He was like, it's like American Idol, except for Kelly Clarkson, right? Like, or one of these Voice or whatever.
But are they famous in their own country? Because
he was not very convinced. Like maybe a little bit, but it's not like they become Beyonce or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Talented they may be, but he was like, it's, the countries like freak out so much over this. It's like the Olympics of singing, but it's this weird combination of it. Then like, yeah, it's not really, a ticket to an incredible music career necessarily. And then he was like very, adamant that all the gimmicks, like when they make it to the actual Eurovision and they try to like zhuzh up their show, like all these like cheesy gimmicks are really, really important to each act. So yeah, it made it definitely funnier watching it with him. And he insisted he did not like it, Eurovision, like the actual show, not the movie, or has ever watched it, or has ever participated as a kid when it was on TV. And I was like, clearly all of that is a lie. Like that's 100% not true. Seems like you can't escape it if you grew up here.
And so here's a couple of let me test you guys on some facts and figures, and then I want to come back to the film.
Oh, figures.
Who do you think has won the most times off the top of your head?
Spain is definitely up there on the list.
So
Russia too. Russia's won a ton now, more recently.
So
I'm going with Spain and Russia.
as of now, Ireland has won 7 times.
That's pretty good for Ireland.
Sweden has won 6 times. I feel like you should have gotten that because
it's ABBA.
ABBA is the most successful winner, and I feel like that gives.
And they're the exception to the Beyonce
They
rule.
won the Eurovision contest? That's
in 74.
For Waterloo, that's in the movie.
Waterloo, that's the beginning of the movie, Becky.
Oh, I know, but okay.
Well, that's fair. It's not an actual documentary, but that was real. The other ones that have won 5: Luxembourg, France, Netherlands, and the United Kingdom.
Oh, Jose did say a bunch of countries that like you never knew existed in Europe all of a sudden are performing in this and often win, like San Marino. I was like, what's that? And he's like, that's like a Luxembourg or a Liechtenstein, these rando countries in Europe that produce a singer and nobody's sure where they are.
And do you want to know who's come in the most last?
Who? Ooh.
In 1963, 69,
the UK.
74, 76, 78, 81, 90, 97, 2001, 2004.
Come on, I really want to think about this.
France.
No. Let's really think about it. Denmark.
Becky's very close.
Austria. No, but
Holland.
they definitely won.
You're getting further. Norway, but Norway has also won 3 times. So
who's the number 1 winner? Sweden.
The number 1 winner is Ireland right now. Sweden's number 1.
What about Spain? How many times? Where do they rank?
I don't know. Spain's not even in the rankings.
They've won a bunch.
Probably. Well, not more than 5.
I guess not. Yeah. Or Russia's getting up there.
I'm not sure. Okay, so they've only won twice, Lily. That's half the amount of times Israel has won.
Oh, I thought they won more.
Nope. But I remember at camp we would even learn the songs, the Israeli entries that didn't even win. So like, do you remember that song Ole Ole Cha 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 Cha? So
kind of. Also, it was like one song that just was la 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 the whole time. What is the level of expertise here of these judges?
That's the Spain song.
The Spain song. La la
one
la.
was La 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 in 1969. The other was Vivo Cantando. With a 4-way tie with France.
The best was like, Mom's like, I don't understand why more South American and like Latino countries don't take like the winner every year. And I was like, it's Eurovision.
I mean, it's definitely a wide definition.
Right? Because I was like, Israel is not really Europe, but
yeah, Allie turned to me at one point and made some sort of comment about the and I said, there are other places in the world than Europe, right, that aren't in this. Right. Like she was like, what countries aren't in this? I was like,
kind of like Mom yesterday.
I'm like, well,
you're like, other continents.
4 other continents that aren't involved. She's like, oh yeah. She loved the movie. Loved the movie.
I mean, I couldn't tell you because I can't understand her taste.
There was if you want to have, I'm saving this for you guys, a What Are the Rules moment with Allie. Her most emotional moment, and this is where I'm going to segue to Becky in the cinematography, if she can talk, is that when the finale song Husavik came on, and they play the song that Sigrid, Rachel McAdams' character, has written herself, and she sings in Icelandic. I was like, oh, that's really cool. You kind of saw that coming the whole time,
right?
And I looked over at Allie, and Allie's just weeping.
Oh my God.
Weeping like it's the end of Titanic.
Oh, Jesus.
I will say that song is great. It's better than the song from Frozen 2, for example. and it was an earned moment. But I also feel like the way they filmed that finale, the way they shot them looking at each other, like it was an extra layer of
Well,
effort.
Right. I think the movie in general, like the costumes, mom could not shut up about the costumes. She's like, "Who designed these? What are they wearing? This is amazing." And I think that they could have made silly clown-like costumes for these people, but they really made it like a lot of stuff was
Honestly, they
knit.
made them better than the ones that when you go back and you watch some of the
Oh,
other
for sure. But I just mean like when they're in character as their characters,
Oh,
Lars, like just like the shit that they wear is so wacky. But it's even that is like well done.
yeah.
I feel like somebody, whoever is at the helm is really, was like making this like a heartfelt film. I didn't feel like they were making fun of them.
That's what I read. I've read some of the reactions that said, it's a love letter. If you're expecting Blades of Glory, which is much wackier,
Right.
this is an actual love letter to people who love the Eurovision contest, and it kind of embodies the part of how
Right.
it's inspiring to
I
people.
assumed it was like just going to destroy the like cheesiness of this competition and make really fun of like Icelandic people, I guess. And instead there was way more jokes about dumb Americans, and
Which were hilarious.
which were really funny.
The American jokes are amazing.
Yeah, they were amazing. And when he's like, "There's a Starbucks over there," and they're like, "I think he's giving us directions to the Starbucks." It was so good. And they're in the lime green like Mini Cooper driving around, the idiots. And he's like, "Don't come to Iceland, whatever you do." Like those, that was way better than like having them make fun of Iceland. You know what I mean? And so I thought, yeah, the movie had way more heart, which made it like super enjoyable in the end. Because and I think the scene, I don't know when you want to talk about this, but the scene where
let's just say if you're listening now and we haven't spoiled it for you, we
Right.
talk about the movies like real people, there will be spoilers.
Right. The medley, which is my favorite scene in the whole movie. The medley
Which
with
was
the
also shot
former,
beautifully.
yeah, with the former. Most of those people are actual Eurovision
Winners,
competitors,
right?
yeah, or winners, yeah.
Although they had them singing not a single Eurovision song.
Exactly.
They
Which
had
mom
them
was
all
like,
singing American
I had
songs.
no idea
Mostly
Madonna's "Ray of Light" won Eurovision. And I was like, "Oh no, mom! They clearly only did Waterloo, and then we're like, let's put real songs in here," which is just. It's like a way to make fun of it.
Could you imagine if they did like Hallelujah?
Right. Like nobody knows those. Nobody knows enough of those songs to be able to enjoy that.
That was the
scene.
1979 winner, by the way, for anyone.
Exactly. So, that scene like elevates those competitors and elevates the people who do it.
Well, Ali
said
as soon as
we're talking about the medley. Sorry.
As soon as that scene started, Ali, as soon as that scene started, Ali said, "Oh, they're going to do the Pitch Perfect riff-off thing," but you know what? It was much less ironic than the riff-off. It was
right.
It was like this inspiring, uplifting thing where they showed.
And I love that they started off with Cher.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
although again, they didn't. Again, it is weird that they picked a bunch of American songs, but I don't know what the tradition.
No, it's not weird at all because it's Netflix for like. Well, I mean, I know it's international, but like it's American made, so it makes sense that it'd be like, let's just pick songs that like.
They're not going to pick the Finnish winner.
Yeah, they're going to pick like songs that like everyone knows.
Right.
I guess right. Sometimes you do have to think about the audience, and your job is to make a product to make the audience have fun. And again, a documentary can be another
right.
thing.
The Eurovision documentary, you can feature each country's song.
Exactly.
Right. So Beck, that scene in particular, the medley was shot beautifully, and I think the final scene was shot beautifully, and it really got in your heart as you were watching it, and I feel like the camera work had something to do with that. You don't usually say that when you're talking about a Will Ferrell comedy.
Yeah, I did find that for sure for a Will Ferrell comedy, it was elevated, it was purposeful, it was in the spirit of the not campiness of Eurovision, but like the larger than life, the spectacle, if you will, of how Eurovision is portrayed. The camera work in those scenes, it was also really meant to be like larger than life, a carnival if you will. And I thought that was unexpected. And for me, that's one of the things that made the movie a little made me feel like the movie had a higher production value than just a typical Will Ferrell comedy, which I love. Give me a movie like The House any day of the week, I will watch it and love it. But this kind of had
seen
something.
that twice, and I don't remember anything that happened in it.
I just know Jason
But it was
Mantzoukas is in it.
Mantzoukas makes a cameo, and that's good enough for me.
Right? So I felt like they were really getting into the spirit of what Eurovision was supposed to be, which then made at least it made me become more invested in the stakes of it.
Yeah,
because
they didn't play. Certainly, they had a lot of laughs, but they didn't play.
Right, because if they knock it down and make fun of it too much, then you don't care who wins.
They weren't.
So,
like the teasing aspect was, individual characters, Fire Saga, obviously themselves, but they were actually paying homage to this event throughout the movie and kind of showing of course, the I don't know how to explain it. Maybe the
significance,
the sleaziness of it in a way.
Yeah.
I would say campiness.
The campiness of it, but how much fun that these people are here because they genuinely love singing and performing, and they're performers.
And the audience is good.
Well,
and it has a bit of an Olympic thing into it because everybody's representing their countries.
Yeah,
and I like that
a lot of pride
general,
involved.
And there was some camaraderie between the artists. There's a scene where Sigrid says she wants to go back and be with the artist, and even if she gets no vote, she's going to sit in the room with the artist because she's an artist. And I really liked that, and
they're all cheering for each other. It is, and you know what? We're in a moment. We talk about this where I just want to watch things that make me feel good. This made me feel good. This made me feel happy.
Could the movie have been 85, 90 minutes? Absolutely. The fact that it wasn't, like I said, the world is a
take an extra 20 minutes of happiness.
Exactly. And I was like, oh, great. There's an extra 20 minutes of Rachel McAdams and Will Ferrell. Cute.
And she was especially adorable in this movie.
Yes.
She was so sweet.
She also I did have to Google if she sang her own song.
She did not sing.
And you know what?
The singer, by the way, we say her name, My Marianne. That's the name of the singer.
I would say I appreciate
former Eurovision contestant
that
who did not win.
Rachel McAdams did not sing her own songs because in my house we've been listening to this Disney playlist and the new Lion King songs come on and I'm just like, I love you, Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner, but you are not doing Hakuna Matata justice. It is hard to listen to. And so I really appreciate that they just got a proper singer to do Rachel McAdams songs to make them amazing.
Well, and they got an Icelandic singer from Eurovision, and she sang all the songs.
I think she's Swedish.
She's Swedish.
She's Swedish.
Okay.
Yeah.
But she clearly sings in Icelandic.
But damn, that last number. Okay, so that was another thing I really loved about it. That they keep saying throughout, like, wow, she really has a good voice, but she's just not pushing herself. Like, she could do it. And I'm kind of like, I don't know, what does that mean? And then in that last number, you're like, oh, this is so rewarding.
Whatever that note is, the Splorg note. Whatever they talk about,
spirit note or something,
right?
Yeah, that was very cool. Okay,
when are we going to talk about elves?
Well, sorry,
here's a knife bag in case you need to murder someone.
The elves was amazing because as Becky and I have immersed in Nordic culture before, we watched Troll Hunter. Lily, that movie is so absurd and amazing. Troll Hunter.
The movie's incredible. You should watch that. That was a perfect movie for Jose and like mom and dad. That's like a great one.
I mean, sort of. It's a Norwegian found footage.
It's scary for Jose and it's a documentary for dad.
Yeah, but to me, I was already like prepped for the world where people believe in elves and trolls and things like that. But what was amazing is how much Becky was excited about it. Becky kept texting us, elves.
I mean,
so
when she says the elves have gone too far.
The elves have gone too far. So elves are like a really big part of Icelandic society, not just like culturally, spiritually. They're like a legit part of how society functions. I mean, or their culture
society functions. Okay.
And I like there's a whole thing about how like the elves need to be consulted if you're gonna like build on certain lands. Like you have to like consult the elves or something like that.
Oh,
Anyways, I know
wow.
someone who made a whole documentary about the elves of Iceland and the people
you
who can
share the
see the
title
elves
with
and
us?
communicate with them.
You have to share the title with us.
I have to look it up. But I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but I know it exists. And I was like so excited to see the elves having a storyline. And again, it just really felt like it paid off in the end with the murder scene.
right. You knew it was going to pay off, and it paid off, I thought,
And it paid
beautifully.
off so well.
All right. So
It was such a
moving on
great
from
film.
elves, what was your? Instead of our MVP, we're gonna do our MVS. What was your most valuable song? There are some. We'll talk about a bunch of the name songs, but what was your most valuable song?
Not including JaJa Ding Dong.
No, that's one
No,
of the songs
that's
in the
one.
movie.
Okay, we're including JaJa Ding Dong because I feel
So I'll tell you my
JaJa Ding Dong.
So first of all, I love the idea that they're in this bar and all the only people want to hear is JaJa Ding Dong. So Allie and I bought the soundtrack and we've been listening to it like nonstop in the last 24 hours. And we went on this driving trip with the kids today and we were playing JaJa Ding Dong like over and over and over again. And I was like just laughing along and, we weren't sure if it was a real song or not. And the kids were like, "What is this JaJa Ding Dong?" I'm just like straight up. I was like, "Ding dong," like a clock tower. Like the love is like hitting him like a bell. And I said, it'd be funny, Al, when we're grandparents, you can be Yaya and I can be Ding Dong. And so like everyone's laughing in the car. And then Allie's like, this song is like full of innuendo. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just like a silly love song about like. And then I started listening to all the lyrics, and I was like, "Oh boy!" I had no idea. I unironically just thought it was this like Norwegian,
Very
Icelandic.
funny.
Folk
Is it a real
song.
song? Because Mom
I
kept
don't-
being like, "This
I don't
sounds like
think
a
so.
folk song." And I was like, I don't
No,
think so.
the MVP, the best song is their Eurovision finale number. That was amazing. That for me is like for sure the best song.
So for me, that one takes the cake.
Yeah.
But it really takes the cake. But I have to say, Double Trouble, like That Thing You Do, although not as good as That Thing You Do, it's played so many times in the movie that you have to believably like that. You have to
Yes.
believe that they would make it to the next round. And I give Double Trouble was like the workhorse of the movie and really had to carry a lot of what was going on. So I'll give Double Trouble the edge on volume and participation, even though Husavik was obviously the best song. What about you?
Shai, who wrote all the songs? Because they're great.
A
It's
producer
really fun.
in LA. I was reading about
So
it.
much fun, these songs. I mean, they must have had the best time
I
writing
was reading
them.
about it yesterday.
Lily, what about you? What was your MVS?
I would say with you, Sam, with you, Shay.
Yeah.
I felt the same way.
Which means
They had
neither
to
one of
sort
you
of
are
do-
answering because you're basically giving two answers.
No.
I think
You're saying Double Trouble?
Yeah, because to me, it had to carry the whole movie, and it had to be just good enough that they could, if they performed it right, they could make it through. But if they're performing it like shitty, then it's like sounds horrible. And so I feel like that's the one.
Bouncing all over the place here a little bit, but can we just touch on how handsome Pierce Brosnan is?
Yeah,
and
Allie
how
kept
like
asking, why is Pierce Brosnan in this movie?
he's so
Why did he do this
handsome.
movie?
And
That's
Vlad
did
was
him a
even
favor.
remarking last night. He goes, Pierce Brosnan has never had an awkward aging stage. He has consistently looked handsome.
Oh, I
For as
actually
long
think
as
I'm pretty
I
sure
actually
Will
think
Ferrell
he's one of
refers
those
to him
guys.
at one point as my handsome dad.
I actually think that he looked better old than he did in his like
Mrs.
Remington
Doubtfire.
Steele,
But he's
Mrs.
always
Doubtfire
been
era.
super handsome. And he's such a handsome older man.
Do you know he's Irish? When the flags came up of
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
said
what that
he
flag
was-
is.
oh God,
I'm like,
Becky.
I don't get to
Oh
know.
my god, this is like we are as ignorant as we've ever been on this episode.
Buy me a dishwasher. What's the Irish flag? Whatever.
I was like, I said to Mom, I was like, he's Irish American, and she was
We're
like,
the worst. We actually shouldn't put this episode out. I'm starting
No.
to cringe.
No.
No, I knew it was Ireland. That's on you.
I knew it was Ireland too, Becky. That is you.
It was
are the
11:30
ignoramus.
I will
at night,
say
and I
it
haven't
gets-
slept in days.
It gets to the point though where I'm like, is that Greece? Is that Sweden? I don't know.
I know which one Greece
And
is.
the blue and
because-
white ones come up. Those ones with the stripes. Those ones get a bit hazy for me, but
Oh, goodness.
Ireland is very clear. I also like how they make a few cracks about the UK.
That was
What-
funny
what
when they said to the singer, when the Russian guy goes, "Oh, she's very good, but
Nobody,
we
everybody
all,
hates the UK.
everybody hates the UK, so
That's really
so
funny.
no points." That was
Oh.
was
Let's
Oh,
talk about
are we-
Matthew,
can we
please.
please
He
talk
was
about
to me.
Matthew?
He's the MVP.
Uh,
He stole the movie to me.
he
Matthew from Downton Abbey. I don't know what his
was-
Lematov.
Stephen
Alexander.
Oh,
Alexander.
Alexander
He
Lemtov, whatever it is.
Okay,
Lematov.
I don't know where to. Okay, again, I'm going to go back to the Disney playlist that we have going all the time in my house. So on that playlist are several songs from the Beauty and the Beast soundtrack. So I am from like the remake. So I'm so like I already know his voice so well because he's in that movie and he sings on that soundtrack. So for
His
me, it was
Tiger
like
song was almost my MVS.
the
of this movie.
comfort
It was pretty
of
funny.
his
Yeah.
voice, of his like I was just thrilled that he was in this.
Lion of Love.
And again, how much
he's
fun is
not
it
the,
to see
He's not
him?
the one singing. It's performed by Eric Munoz.
Right. Yeah.
What? That's the Lion,
Yeah,
same as
no.
Lion King voice. Well, it's
Oh.
late at night for me, but he is a singer.
I mean, I think, anyways. But he was. You know, what made
Dan
him good
Stevens.
was that he.
But Dan
was-
Stevens he sings though, unless they had the same
but
guy
I
sing
have
for
the
him.
soundtrack here, and it says it was Eric Munoz.
Oh, well, I'm very confused then because I'm pretty sure he does sing because he sang in Beauty and the Beast.
Well, I mean, Becky, people can sing and also not and lip sync in certain situations.
Well, he's a
Either-
great lip singer.
Either way, what I liked about him was, and came back to the camaraderie thing, is he had his own agenda, but it wasn't to win Eurovision. It was this bigger musical agenda
To like
of
find
him-
a partner to tour with.
Right, exactly. And I liked that he wasn't just like he wasn't like overvaluing the contest. He and the Greek woman who sang the song Cleopatra, I think was the name of the song.
Oh my god.
They were like the tour guides of this crazy world. It's sort of like when I think of like you go to Alice in Wonderland and like the rabbit shows you around. Like to me, they did a really great job with those characters. And I like that they had their own friendship and relationship that pays off at the end of the movie as well. And I won't go into the reveals of that because I think it's worth waiting to the end. Was there a song that you actively didn't like? There wasn't one I actively didn't like, but now that I've listened to the soundtrack, there are a few duds when you hear them as full songs. When you hear them,
I'm not saying I'd want to listen to all of them on the soundtrack, but during the movie, nope. I thought everything was well timed. Even Demi Lovato's song.
Oh, Demi Lovato was very funny in it, and
Yeah.
She was
I thought
great.
She was good. It was great. I knew it was her immediately. Allie was like,
Yeah.
"Is it?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
I
immediately.
was like, for sure. She's super
The
recognizable.
elves have gone too far.
I mean, when that
Hey,
happens, I didn't
yeah,
expect
Ding
that
Dong.
to happen. I
mean-
knew they get into the competition, but I didn't expect it to be because everybody dies.
I really want Play JaJa Ding Dong to be like you know how the Freebird is like a thing. I want to
Yeah.
go to concerts after COVID and go Play JaJa Ding Dong. I can take over for Freebird. So I thought also that this movie did a really good job. Because it's a sequel, right? This is not the first in the story. It's a sequel.
What?
Yeah. It's like a many years sequel to The Last Kingdom, and
What?
yeah, the TV show, right? The Last Kingdom that we watch.
What are we in the same episode right now?
No,
You're making that
I'm
up.
totally joking. Just because
I'm
of,
so
because of the
confused.
names and the accents were like the same.
Oh my God,
No.
when the modern Viking does his song, Jose just the whole time was like, that's like that was taken from a real year.
was
Like that's
amazing,
real.
Also-
That's real. That's real.
And no, I'm totally joking. I'm totally joking around about that. But what would you do with a sequel? I don't think there should be a sequel. But what would you do with the sequel to this movie?
They have like a family band.
I was about to say
Like
exactly.
the
Like they have like
Partridge
3
Family.
kids, and he's the director of their family.
Okay.
Can I just say the ending when he's just holding the baby in the Bjorn, and if you're actually like paying attention, that baby is is asleep in half of the shots, just drooling with his head down. It just made me so happy.
It was very cute
so
because
cute. It was so
her
cute.
wish was for them to be happy
They're-
together and have a
And
baby.
baby.
And I'm not, again, if we're not doing spoilers, although
We
we're
are.
kind of
We
doing
are.
spoilers.
No,
We
we said
are.
Oh, okay. The consistent joke throughout of someone
But,
going,
are
"Are you
they
brother and
sisters and
sister?"
sister?
No, probably not.
Probably.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Why does he keep saying probably not?"
Well, no,
To
that's-
me, that was a
Parents are in
great. That was a
love.
great payoff at the end.
That's in my notes. That's in my notes throughout, which is like I'm like for the whole beginning, I'm like, are they brother and sister? Is that where this is going? Because that would have see, that to me was a funny running joke, but it would have been a very cynical,
Right.
cynical ending. Like it when you compare it, because in the ice skating in Blades of Glory, the Will Arnett and Amy Poehler character are brother and sister, but they have that weird incestuous relationship. That would have made this more like that, but the whole point was to have them be, in love, which was really and I think that when you're talking about those things, I actually wrote in my notes, seriously, are they siblings or a love interest? Like, what's going on? And then I realized it was a recurring bit, which was really funny. I loved when she goes, no, and he's probably not.
Over and over
but that's
again.
also because, as they repeated many times, that his dad clearly slept around in
with
town.
mostly,
And so, but I guess she was the one that got away. Is that what we're reading about that? I mean, for such a long
Yeah,
movie, didn't really explain that well.
yeah, that they.
She
was
Sigrid's
like
mom
Was the
is the
one
one that got
woman
away.
got away,
was the
and
one
then
that got
they get together. I just really feel like with this movie, they put their resources in the right place.
Mhm.
And it with Netflix movies, you don't really get that a lot these days. It's just more like you're watching movies and you go, oh wow, they just got like a bunch of money and just kind of spent it all over the place
Did
with
whatever.
no rhyme or reason. And this time it actually felt like they put it in the right places. They got great talent. It was funny. It was heartwarming. I can see myself, if not watching it again from beginning to end, at least like watching certain parts and definitely some musical numbers. I really,
I want actually, and I thought it was fine for my kids to watch. Now again,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit on the edge.
You're advanced.
But
I
my
mean,
kids watched 17
everybody-
again on
Oh
Friday
God,
night.
that movie's depressing.
17 again with Matthew Perry.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like that movie's
I mean,
sad.
most of their reaction was, "Wow, Zac Efron does a lot of basketball movies," because in High School the Musical he plays.
A basketball player.
But anyways, it was.
I think this is
much
more
entertaining
appropriate
than
than 17
yeah, there was
again.
some sort of sexual whatever, but they didn't really go
Nah.
into it too much. Okay,
I mean,
well,
everybody dies on a boat, but I guess that's funny.
I mean, that was funny. Are there other? I mentioned some of the Eurovision songs that I looked at, and again, the Lordy Hard Rock
that's-
Hallelujah. Everyone has to watch the live performance of that because it is just amazing.
I did. I just looked at your YouTube link. I 100% know that song and that video,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure I know that song because you definitely snuck
made-
it onto weird mixtapes for me.
Oh, for sure. I've made everyone
As
listen
a
to that
teen,
song. I'll stop
like,
people and be like, "Have
obnoxiously.
you heard this song?" So wrapping up, buy, rent, or meh. It's a buy for me. It's a low end buy, but it's a buy.
I would say low end buy, yeah.
Oh, this is for sure quarantine buy.
Oh.
There's quarantine rules. This is a quarantine.
So it's like an
hard
adjusted
buy.
score.
Yeah,
Adjusted
it's
score.
like
quarantine.
it's like watching something on an airplane.
With your family and only your family for 3 months.
For months on end.
I mean, we're talking about I'm not going to say how long it'll be. It's been 3 months. It will be another year.
it's a very long flight.
It's going to be very long. All right. So, what about Recs and shoutouts? What have you guys been
Oh,
watching?
I have something big I actually want to recommend and promote. First of all, I know that there are. Wait, sorry.
So does Sunny.
So does Sunny. I know that there are a lot of important causes people should be donating to right now, and please donate to those. Black Lives Matter. There's so many. We're donated to the Equal Justice Initiative, to our local food bank. There's very important places that need funding and support. So that's one. Now, if in addition to that, you feel inspired to donate to an art project of sorts, there's a Kickstarter that we are really big fans of in this house. It's a film called an animated film called The Slide. It's being made by hold on, sorry, I want to make sure I get the name right. It's being made by an Israeli animator and a team from like all around the world. Sorry, maybe should I start that over?
No, I mean, no.
Miri is here.
All of your kids are just.
Can I ask like a very controversial question?
Yeah.
Where's your husband?
Oh, he's sleeping, but because
He was
we
up
switched
watching
off,
Eurovision all night.
we switched off really early in the morning. I gave him Sunny, and then I went back to sleep for a while. And so we each only
A
like
rough
slept
night.
like 5 hours last night, and then we've been rotating naps. And he was gonna wake up when the podcast started, but I feel really badly, so I'm just letting him sleep.
Well, that's cool. Well, The Slide,
Okay,
animated
sorry.
film,
So
Israeli filmmaker, all
Israeli
around the world,
filmmaker.
Kickstarter.
Just go on Kickstarter. It's called The Slide. It's an animated film. It looks really beautiful and interesting. So if, in addition to all the very important causes that do need support, you want to kick a couple bucks to an interesting Kickstarter, it's called The Slide. So that's what I want to do a shout out to this week.
Okay. Lily, how about you?
I don't have, except for the obvious, places to donate or what's close to your heart, all the different causes that are so important, in the world right now. Even, gosh, the situation in Yemen, it's just like on top of it, if you read about that and the virus there and the kids, it's just like there's so many places money can go, and causes in the United States and outside the United States. So I think you have to follow your heart and how much you can, like, each person can give, of course. And if you can't give, then, there's like social media. There's so many other ways to even just having a conversation, right? Just making it part of your daily life. In terms of TV, I can say that we finished season 3 of Broadchurch, which was many years old.
It's a great season.
It's a great season, and it is a very heavy show. The acting is out of this world, and it makes you like very obsessed with Olivia Colman and David Tennant.
Well, you're like Olivia Colman. You watch that show and you're like, oh, she's an Oscar-worthy performer, but you're also watching a BBC show and like, how's she ever
like
going to get?
Like 2014 or whatever,
yeah.
and you're like, wow, she won't, it's too bad, like she's a powerhouse. And then no surprise there, Oscar winner. And David Tennant is just like incredible. Love that guy. And
Allie loves him. He's her type.
He is he?
Hey, I mean, I'm her type too.
I don't know. I thought Terrence Howard was her.
No, Allie
likes
Allie
rules.
Allie's list of like men that I can like, she has Terrence Howard, Charlie Hunnam, and
David Tennant.
And David Tennant. Like that is part of the selection.
She's so eclectic.
Oh, and The Rock specifically when he's wearing a suit. Like every time The Rock comes on Ballers in one of his suits, she goes, "That man can wear a suit."
Find out who his tailor is.
Shy. Oh, and Zac Efron. Zac Efron, very big with.
Like Allie. I said, she's so eclectic.
Yeah.
But
I have to remind her that he's playing a teenager in most of his
movies. Exactly. It's troublesome. But and then we started. This is not a show you guys have either one of you have watched, but it checks the like Jose loves mystery box for me, and so we're watching season 3 of The Sinner, which is a why done it, not a who done it. Each season's different.
3 seasons? They haven't figured out why she did it?
No, it's each season's its own story. And Bill Pullman.
I like
each season there's a new reverse engineered
crime. It's coincidental. You have to exactly. And I would say that there's a Bill Pullman, and you're watching, and we're watching, and Mom's like, God, Bill Pullman, where's he been? I'm like, on this show, and I'm like, you know what? And I'm like, you know what? I'll take it. I'll take a little Bill Pullman in my life.
I like Bill Pullman. Is he the detective?
Yeah, he's the only consistent thing about the show.
So he has to go around just figuring out people's motives. He's like, I know you did it. I don't know why.
Right. And in all three cases, well, this season's a bit different, but it's still a why. But in the first two seasons, it's very clear who the person is. They are not hiding from the crime, but he has to figure out the motivation.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
on a
And
list of
also,
things I might watch one day.
I don't know if you guys
Interesting.
remember this movie. I think it's the
And
90s. The
you
Zero
can look
Effect.
at, sorry, just 2 seconds. You can look at the description of each season and just decide which one you want to see. There's no,
No, I'd watch the
like,
Jessica
difference.
Biel one.
yeah, that one was pretty
You
good.
know,
But I
I
just mean
think-
there's no, like, not very much correlation between them.
So
He's
he
still a
did
down and out detective type
so
character.
he did a movie with Ben Stiller called The Zero Effect.
Right. I remember.
Which I remember the first 2/3 of were cool, and then the end was a real letdown.
Right.
Well,
what we're watching.
that's really cool.
Shaking it
So
up.
on our front, we watched last weekend. We watched "I Am Not Your Negro," the movie by Raoul Peck, that is a documentary storytelling using James Baldwin, the author's last thing that he wrote, as the framework for the story. And it's essentially a telling of the experience of being Black in America, but through his own view, through his own eyes of Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King. And it's also self-reflective for him. And Samuel Jackson, there's a lot of clips of James Baldwin speaking from interviews, but Samuel Jackson is the one who does the reading of the text as the narration of the documentary. And that is one of the best movies I've ever seen, period. Like 5-star, like I immediately went to my letterbox and gave that the 5 stars. It is extraordinarily powerful. It is a must watch. And what is, and again, I'm naive to say this, but it is one of these things where you're watching it and he's saying things, 40, 50, 60 years ago,
Right.
60
Right.
years ago, that could be 100% true today. And again, you both feel ashamed that you're seeing these words now and not, and that, oh my goodness, it's so terrible that these things are the same. At the same time, it's extraordinarily powerful, and I think this is a moment that if you haven't seen this movie, like, go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime right now if you're in the States. I think it's about an hour and a half long. It is one of the more amazing things I've ever seen, and it is heavy and powerful. So that's that, and that year I was like, oh, it must have won Best Documentary. That year, the documentary about O.J. Simpson that ESPN made won.
Oh, God.
And I haven't seen that one. I've seen the docudrama with David Schwimmer as the Kardashians' dad, which is
really good.
which is a lot of fun.
Is it good?
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't
You
seen
both
that?
have seen it?
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My
It's-
Sonny's like, God, what trash taste do you two have?
And but I was kind of like, I haven't seen it, so it's not fair to say, but I was kind of like astounded. I'm like, this is the exact kind of movie where, how I think that the Oscars, you should be able to vote one movie back from the previous year and let them win. That would make the Oscars interesting, and like this movie would win. I mean, I watched it and I was like, this should just be Best Picture. This doesn't need to be Best Documentary. This is
Right. Wow.
So go watch that as soon as you can. And then the other thing we've been watching in our house is a family fave for me and Lil, which is Billions season 5.
Yeah, you're crushing my dreams, man.
Well,
This is 5 years we've dedicated to this.
Yeah, me, Lily, Howie's a big watcher of Billions, and Howie and I have been going back and forth, and we've agreed. This season just seems like it's all over the place. I feel like it's kind of undoing progress that was made in the previous season, which was the biggest change in format. It's sort of settling, and there's a lot of like convenient plot devices. Like there are decisions that the characters make that just don't like. They're going to have to give me some real depth in the last 5 episodes, right? The 7 episodes in. But there's an episode where the traders all decide to take this super duper like Ritalin type drug. Have you been to that episode yet, Lily?
No, but
and
go ahead.
they spend like a day making terrible decisions. But it's just so, it's like not, there's no basis for that in the show. There's no basis for Axe doing something like that in the show, other than maybe he's desperate to keep his edge. I don't know. Acting still incredible. but just way too many convenient plot movements. And I hope that the last 5 episodes pick up. Like season 4, all of it was amazing, and then the end it was kind of a dud. Maybe season
Right.
5 will be the reverse. I don't know.
Right.
But it's been a bummer. Just flat. Okay, well, I think that's our show. Sorry, go ahead.
Did either one of you end up seeing 7500, the new Joseph Gordon-Levitt
Oh, I
movie?
haven't watched it yet.
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Okay. Cool. 'Cause I don't know. I always saw it, but curious
saw
what
it.
you think.
That's what she thought of it.
We'll probably watch it this way. I suspect
It's
we'll
intense.
watch it.
It's like definitely like an intense movie, but I'm interested it's interesting that was his choice to come back after his 4-year break.
So, yeah, well, we'll check it out. Beck, where can people follow
Thriller.
you?
You can follow me on Twitter at PaperBKPrincess.
And Lily, where can people follow you?
Same, except it's Chichi, Chichi K Gomez. That's it. On Letterboxd.
And you can follow me at Pancake4Table on Twitter and Instagram and on Letterboxd. You can follow all of the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Fry Night Movie on Instagram and Twitter, or FridayNightMoviePod.com. And our theme song, which will kick in a little bit, is by What Does It Eat? That is the band, of course, that Howie and I are in. And we also just released our latest EP, which is available on Spotify and iTunes and all those places. It's called Sidecar. It is a 16-minute tribute to Song Cycle. So it's a bunch of mini songs all threaded together with different musical
It's
motifs.
amazing. I was listening it in the car the other day. Yesterday with Ari, and going, "That's your T.O. drumming. He's drumming." And he's like, "I don't see anybody drumming." I was like, never mind. Let's just listen.
And it's about 1980s and 90s side characters from TV shows. Check that out. But more importantly, please look into, and if you agree with their incredible missions, please go and support the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the Equal Justice Initiative with Becky, which Becky mentioned earlier. This is one of the ways our family, our Friday Night Movie family, are showing our support for the Black Lives Matter movement at this very important moment. But we're also doing some stuff, individually, but as the Friday Night Movie family, those are 2 really important organizations to us. And I think with that, we are wrapping up our show. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And Lily and Becky, it is really great to be chatting with the 2 of you during this time where we can't see each other. This is like our family project, our quality time for the 3 of us. It's awesome. I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you too. Love you, Sunny. Our pod mascot.